This is my cruiser. It's a Yamaha Midnight Star 950. At least that's how it's called in Europe, but I think in the States it's called a V-Star 950. It's been my main motorcycle for over 10 years, and yeah, it's been really great. This is a Triumph Tiger 900 GT Pro. As you can see, pretty much a standard adventure bike. I've had this one for over a year and a half now, more or less. And this is also a great bike. But here's the thing. Right now what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna talk about what it's like to go from a cruiser to an adventure bike. Because I know that at this time there are many people who are thinking about it. There's many people who have had cruisers for a while and are thinking about moving over to an adventure bike. But you may not have all the information you need to finally make the decision. So I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I definitely can give you my view, my opinion on how I have traveled this road. I'm fortunate in the sense that I have both instead of moving from one to the other. And some of you may be able to do the same, but some may not. Some may have to sell the cruiser in order to get the adventure bike. And for those people is who I think that this video is going to be most helpful. So after saying that, let's go into the details of what makes one better than the other, or not. First off, we have to talk about comfort, and specifically comfort for riding two up, rider and passenger. So as you can see, my cruiser has a Mustang seats, and it has these passenger floorboards that are pretty easy to get for basically any cruiser out there. And I am mentioning this because if you mostly ride two up, and this is probably the main idea that I want to drive in this video, is that if you mostly ride two up, stay with this. Don't change to this. And I'm gonna graphically show you why. Here's the thing. So in a cruiser motorcycle, this is how the passenger rides, right? The passenger is pretty comfortable. I mean, it's laid back. The rider is far up ahead, and you have all this space, all this leg room, and you just chill, right? It's a really great place to sit in, and it's a really great place to ride and look at the scenery as a passenger. Now let's move over to the other bike. Well, there are several things here that if you're coming from there, you are definitely gonna feel like you've been downgraded. First off, where are my floorboards? I don't have any floorboards as a passenger, and if I'm used to the floorboards, I'm not gonna like having my feet dangling in the air like that. Secondly, I don't have as much space as I do over there. The rider is closer, and that means we're gonna bump much more than we would in the other bike. And the third, and by far the most important situation that makes this a downgrade, is the god-awful top case, right? Top cases are awesome. They give you so much storage space, but when you're a passenger in an adventure bike, yeah, they just suck, because they're not meant for passenger comfort, right? They're meant for luggage, for storage. And passenger comfort being an afterthought, what happens here is that you're not laid back, and you end up bumping with the rider so much more often than you would on that one. It doesn't matter if you have some nice pads here or not. Those pads are just, in my point of view, they're even worse, because when you have a pad, you might think, yeah, you know what, the pad is gonna make it more comfortable. But actually what they do is they push you further towards the rider, and they reduce actually the already limited space that you have. You've even lost a bit of it if you put up one of those pads. So if you're mostly a two-up rider, if you mostly ride with your partner, your wife or your significant other, whoever that is, don't change it. Stay with the cruisers. Don't go to the adventure bikes. It's not going to be worth it. The passenger is going to complain so much if this is what they were used to. So now that we know the main reason to stay with cruisers instead of moving to adventure bikes, now here is a bunch of other reasons why it makes sense to move. Basically, if you don't ride too up, your days with cruisers are numbered. And here's why. When it comes to rider comfort, cruisers are not more comfortable. They're different comfortable, right? You have different seating positions, but both bikes are designed so that you can do long rides, right? That means that you will be able to do just as much mileage on this one as you can on that one, and you're gonna have to do more or less the same effort. You're gonna feel just as tired or just as relaxed in either bike. It's not gonna be a bigger effort. Another reason are back roads, or basically any type of twisty road. One of the main selling points of adventure bikes is that they're not the best at anything, but they're pretty good at almost everything. And the twisties are one of those reasons, right? It's not that you can't do twisties on cruisers. Yeah, of course you can, and you might even enjoy it, but it's a completely different experience when you do it on a bike that's actually designed to do those well. And these guys, they're just going to be, they're just so effortless when you're going through those curves. You really have to muscle those bikes around when you're going from curve to curve. It's a more demanding physically. Well, these guys are not. It's just easier. It feels easier, and that's one of the reasons why, even though you may at some point be more comfortable there, overall you have a little bit less effort here on almost anything that you want to do, so that kind of compensates. Another point is, of course, off-roading. Yeah, I mean, that's what they're designed for, so it's kind of like obvious. It's an obvious point that if you're going to do some off-road, that this is going to be better than that, because that's clearly not designed for off-road. But it's not just about planning your ride so that you do off-road or not. It's just that sometimes, depending on where you live or depending on where you plan to ride, sometimes you just end up facing a dirt road that you weren't expecting. And when you're doing that on a cruiser, it's a little bit more nerve-wracking than it could be when you're riding on an adventure bike. So just like for unexpected situations, this will always be better prepared. So that's another great point. The other one is winter or cold weather riding, because I mean, depending on where you are in the world, winter might be too cold for you to even contemplate riding on a motorcycle. But when things start to get cold, adventure bikes are so much better than cruisers, because cruisers are basically low-tech naked bikes. They have no fairings, no protection, and these guys, they're muscly, right? They have this, they're hunky up front, and that means that by design, they have more wind protection. And of course, the rest of the accessories are usually meant for that, to give you more wind and fall protection. And that means that in the end, it's just easier to hide from the cold weather on these guys. Not to mention that when it comes to technology, these guys have more weather amenities or winter amenities than those guys for the same price. Because you can get the same amenities there, but you're going to need to increase your budget considerably, at least in Europe. That may be a little bit different in the US, considering that some cruiser bikes are built there, but usually from a European perspective, these guys are much cheaper and they bring a lot of tech. And that's the last point, of course, tech. I mean, I have a TFT dashboard, electronically adjusted suspension, adjustable suspension. I have a up and down quick shifter. I have heated grips and seats, and I have cruise control. In a cruiser, at most you're going to get cruise control. You may get heated grips. That's about it. None of the rest is going to be there. And so for technology, you're going to have to really break the bank to get something like that up to the same level as this one. So as far as technology goes, yeah, this is just so much better. Now there's another point that has nothing to do with whether it's better or worse. It's just a matter of opinion, of your personal preference. And that's the look, the aesthetic. I always thought that cruisers were the best looking motorcycles. I still think they're great, but the thing is, I always thought that everything else looked bad, that they looked terrible, that they were just, like farm equipment, because they were built for purpose and not for looks. I was wrong, of course, but that's what I thought. And I'm saying this because I think that many people who are fully into cruisers and have never contemplated other types of motorcycles may have this same bias against non-cruisers. And so what happens is, when you start looking at other motorcycles, when you start increasing your knowledge in a subject, you start seeing things that you were never, you hadn't understood before. And that happened to me. Once I started paying more attention, I started seeing what I liked about them. I started seeing forms, and I started seeing aesthetics that were pleasing. And I ended up quite enjoying the way that adventure bikes look. Not all of them, of course, everyone has their own preferences. But yeah, so what I'm saying with all of this is that if you're interested in adventure bikes because you know that they're going to be just better, they're going to provide you more things to do than a cruiser, but you're holding back because of aesthetics, all you need to do is, go to the dealers, start looking at them. Little by little, you're going to see what you like, you're going to see what you enjoy, and I'm pretty sure that sooner or later you're going to end up buying one, because that's what happened to me. It's like a curiosity, like the curiosity bug. Once it bites you, it slowly creeps in, and I ended up buying this one. Right, so before we go, here's my main point, and I really want to drive this home. If you ride two up, if you mostly ride with your significant other, with a passenger, you're always two up, don't change the cruiser for an adventure bike. It's not gonna work. The only thing that you can really change your cruiser for is a bigger one, like a touring bike, like a Goldwing or a BMW K1600 or like an Indian Roadmaster or Pursuits. I mean, that's the only thing that you can change this for that is going to be just as or better for a passenger. But if you're not doing two up, if you're mostly riding alone and you are already curious about these guys, give it a go, and I promise you, you will not regret it. And hopefully you can keep your cruiser, but if you can't, yeah, start looking to sell. These bikes are so much better when you're not riding two up. So that's it. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything I'm saying here. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any notifications. Bye.